Right. I mean, even like one thing that just came to mind is, not even accounting for more inflation to come. I mean, like I was talking about with my company that I work for, they haven't raised their rate per mile towards the drivers. For now, they can keep selling their products at whatever price they're selling at, but eventually they will have to raise that mileage rate, and then that's going to come with inflation on their products because they're going to have to raise the prices to keep the same profit margin. And I'm pretty sure that's going on in a lot of companies, not just this one. So to see that we're already getting affected with not just gas inflation, but inflation in the grocery store, and then more companies are to come where you're going to start seeing rising prices in just regular consumer goods, whether it be furniture or clothing. you know I think there's even more to come, and maybe even more interest rate hikes with what we've seen recently.
Right. And the Fed came out last week and they said that they raised 75 basis points and they plan on raising 75 basis points in the next upcoming meeting in July. And then I'm expecting more basis point rises in the future. But in your scenario, as you said that eventually they're going to have to raise the surcharge on the price of goods. They're going to have to raise the price on their furniture. But it's a price point, don't know where it's at, but it's a price point where the consumer will stop consuming.
Right.
It's a price point where your company will stop paying because when you think of the surcharge fees that they pay, they just lump it all in an amount, total line item on the balance sheet. It's a certain amount of surcharge payments that they will pay. So what you will start seeing going into the job market is you will see them raise that surcharge payment, but you will see them hire less drivers to do the same work
Right.
because they have to. I mean, yeah, it makes it simple. And if this was 2020, it makes it simple. Oh, well, we can give a bigger surcharge fee for the gas, but then we raise the prices. But it's only so much we can raise the prices on the goods that they're selling before the consumer is going to stop. And then they were going to have to stop hiring drivers and make the drivers that stay do more work than what they was doing before, just to meet the demand of the company, so the company can still be profitable. And you see that in a lot of companies. You see, I mean, people that follow the CNBCs and the financial news, you'll see that the biggest companies in the world, the Microsofts, the Twitters, Tesla, uh, Uber. I was about to say ride sharing, but Uber, Lyft, they already started changing. They already started changing their hiring model. That the first four companies that I named, they already put a freeze on hiring, and then Uber came out and stated that to be an Uber driver is a privilege, not just because you got a vehicle that's in line. And the reason why is because Uber is paying all those few surcharges because the price is higher, and they can't keep absorbing that huge amount of fees with millions of drivers all over places. So they're condensing. They're condensing the employee population or contracted drivers. They're condensing that, and then having them make more money with fewer drivers and do more work with fewer drivers, but it's costing them less on the surcharge side. So that is how most companies will operate, is they will start looking at the bottom line employees. That's where they always start. I mean, I'm not telling anybody any news that they don't know. They start with the bottom line employees or the people on the lower rung, and they start wiping them out. They can't wipe out all of them because they still need people to do the entry level tasks. But then after they start wiping out the lower level, then they go to mid level management and start condensing organizations, or condensing groups inside the organization. That's what I should say, within the organization. So you will have one manager in charge of two teams instead of one team, and they'll condense that down to start saving it more operational costs because they got to pay less people. Then after that, once they do the condensing of the groups and stuff like that, the next thing they'll start looking at is outsourcing, finding ways to get the same production at a cheaper rate. So that's why you see companies outsourcing to the Indias and other countries in the world to get a cheaper rate on their operational costs to make themselves profitable. But that is how 99% of the companies operate when they need to build more cash or have more cash or show a bigger profit. They cut expenses, and usually the employees are the first expenses to go.
Right. And I mean, not a direct effect from this that I can already see as far as like, because in our department, we handle a lot of, the hiring for the drivers. And it's not directly a, hey, we don't have the money to hire drivers. But what we're seeing is there's not enough sales to,
To justify it.
exactly. We don't have enough sales to, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Enough sales to justify running this many drivers. Um, which was ironic because during COVID is when we did a lot of hiring because there was a boost of sales and we needed that capacity of drivers to handle the amount of deliveries. Now sales are dwindling down and we have a lot of guys, as we say, sitting where they're not working. They're maybe getting, 3 days of work a week as opposed to 5, 6 days a week, or yeah, 5, 6 days a week, a year or two ago. And so that eventually is gonna, I believe at this rate, if the sales keep dropping, we're not gonna be able to maintain some of the drivers that we have because they're simply just gonna have to look out, outsource to other companies to look for work.
It will keep dropping because, like we talked about just now,
Mhm.
uh, the segment right before you start speaking is the cost get higher and the consumer stop consuming. I mean, if you
Right.
remember in COVID, most people were sitting in the house, most people was remodeling their homes. And home purchases was at an all-time high. People was buying homes left and right. But now interest rates has risen. Home mortgage right now, as we speak, is around 6.3, 6.5%. The home buying has tapered off, plateaued, and now it's on the downswing, especially of new home sales and existing home sales. Those numbers will be out next week. That's starting to drop. So there's less people moving into new homes and things like that. So that affects your business also. On top of the prices that they're already paying, you add on the inflation from all the other areas arena of the economy. So that's where it starts at. The consumer stops buying goods, and then now that big surge that you had in 2020 and 2021, that number of employees are not needed no more. So you're going to start contracting. Contracting is losing employees. So you're going to see less contractors hiring employees. You're going to start seeing them laying off employees or laying off drivers. And you're going to start seeing owner operations, the owner operating more of their shipment just to keep their business afloat. Will we see another 2020, 2021 situation anytime soon? I doubt it. I don't believe that the government is going to stimulate the economy by pumping a lot of money in there anytime soon, even though the recession will come. And the reason why the recession is going to come is because the Feds are going to keep raising interest rates to induce a recession, just so everybody will stop the demand side. So people understand the federal government, the only thing they can control is the demand side of the supply chain curve. They cannot control supply. That is government, that is administration issues. The presidential administration issues. The federal government only control demand. When they lowered rates back in 2020, and then the president was giving us stimulus checks and enhanced unemployment, that drove high demand because people had more money than they're used to, and that drove demand. But now the Fed is trying to cut off the supply of money to slow demand, and demand is going to get so slow that a contraction in GDP will happen in 2 consecutive quarters, and we will be in a recession.